everyone. My name is Alicia Jackson, licensed professional counselor. And today we're going to talk about some tips and tools on how to communicate in a relationship that is toxic. I say that word with caution because I don't really like to use that word. I don't like labeling people as toxic. I feel, and this is my opinion, in my clinical perspective, truly that I operate under, that connections, behavior can be toxic, or self-sabotaging. Even relationships can be. I feel that people are just trying to get their needs met, and at times do not always have the best tools and strategies because of what they've experienced through their life. They don't have the best tools and strategies to get those needs met, which ends up being in situations that are toxic. So, with that being said, knowing that I'm not calling anyone toxic, because I don't do that. I don't do that. I wish we could find a different way of looking at each other. I feel like that would truly help us as a society, but that is not what this video is about. This video is about communication in relationships that are toxic. And so, let's kind of give some clarity to that too. So there's a difference between like toxic relationships and abusive relationships. I do not condone anyone staying, in an abusive situation where you're fearing for your life or your emotional safety or physical safety. That is, I don't have any tips for you, but other than to seek help. I'll make sure that I have information regarding domestic violence shelters and things of that nature for individuals who are in those situations, because there's no tips that's going to help that situation in that state that needs immediate intervention, where the person needs to find safety for themselves. Okay. All right. So toxic relationships can show up in ways where people have expectations that are unrealistic for their partner. They may have difficulty with self-awareness. Not everybody has that skill to see themselves in situations. Not everyone has a secure sense of self, of who they are, and clarity in who they are, to take accountability for what they may have done to someone, and that hinders their relationships and their connections, and can lead them to be toxic. So here's some tips on how to work through that. Okay, so one is taking a honest look at yourself and at the other person, and this is with a clear mind, not with an emotional mind, but a clear mind. If you are navigating a toxic relationship, I truly would, of course, you guys are going to know that this is a recommendation for me before I even say it, but I definitely would recommend you being in your own individual counseling to help navigate this. Okay. But to look at yourself and take an honest look at yourself and the other person. Because in order for a relationship to be toxic, there has to be two parties. There's two parties involved. And so there's a role that somebody's playing, whether it's the enabler or the over responsible person, or that's that's kind of making the other person not act in their best light, in their best self. So taking an honest look at yourself as well, to make sure you're setting healthy boundaries. If you want to or don't know how to do that, I have a series on boundaries, but tips on how to set boundaries and even know how to deal with someone who has crossed your boundaries. So looking at that, you can definitely look at that series to get that information. Okay, but you want to take an honest look at yourself in the role that you've played, in the role that the other person has played, to know what needs to be adjusted, what needs to shift, what needs to move, and how the patterns that you have fallen into. Oftentimes we fall into patterns that are comfortable for us because we played these roles before. Ouchie. So we played these roles before in our childhood or previous relationships. We kind of fall right into these patterns, and learning and how to shift that. Now, this is coming from the place of where you both are trying to work this out. If the person does not want to resolve this, it is going to be challenging. I don't like to say that things are impossible, because I have no idea whether that's impossible or not, but it is going to be extremely challenging if the person does not see their role in it. So if we don't have two willing partners in this relationship, this toxic relationship, then you're crippled. You're crippled quite a bit, because it takes two to fix this. Okay, and so then you also want to stand your ground and maintain your voice. Oftentimes there can be, and I'll say it like this, a childlike part in all of us that just doesn't want to do the work required, or doesn't want to take accountability, doesn't want to do the extra work to fix it. And sometimes that inner child can sometimes try to convince the person or the other person that, that need that they need fulfilled in the relationship. Like, you're just gonna tries to tell them in so many words, not outright say it, but you're just gonna have to cope without that need getting met because I don't want to do it, right? And that is not that's not what we want to do in a situation where we are trying to build and resolve and heal. So if a person's bringing a need to you, or you're vice versa, if you're bringing a need to that person and they're kind of wiggling, stand your ground. No, this is a boundary I have. This is it. I have this boundary. I need this to be addressed, and I need this to change. What can we do to fix it? I'm ready. I'm willing. What can we do? So standing your ground, not shifting, not backpedaling, but maintaining your voice and maintaining your need, despite the kind of wiggling that can happen sometimes. We do it. We just do it. We don't like uncomfortableness. We don't like doing something that's going to cause us discomfort. And when I'm saying discomfort, like extra effort. Okay. And so sometimes that's going to just require us to manage and maintain our voice when maybe the other person is like, but I don't want, no, this is the boundary. This is it. So I need you to do this. Okay. So maintaining your voice. This one is a difficult one. So Brene Brown, the way she describes blame is how we deal with the pain, right? So if something hurts us, we're like, it was you. It was you who did it. And so we tend to throw blame around a lot in our world, when really blame is so much more complex than that. Accountability and understanding is where we need to settle versus blame. It's not as black and white. Blame is very black and white, almost like a childlike view of pain. Accountability and understanding it takes time, but oftentimes, even in relationships, you yourself can play a role in you not getting a need met, or having your feelings hurt because you didn't say it, or you miscommunicated it, or what have you. So it's much more complex than blame. So shifting from blame, and we talk about blame shifting like, oh, you did that, well then you did that. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about moving from that language to everybody taking accountability. Me taking accountability for my stuff, the other person taking accountability for their stuff, and then understanding the lens, understanding each other's perspective and each other's experiences to grasp their perspective. If you haven't experienced, or if you don't know their childhood experiences or their past relationships that have caused these the perceptions or these behaviors, then you're gonna be left just clueless. So there definitely needs to be open communication about, like, okay, when I do this, well, it's because I'm doing this. And so oftentimes any behavior that's happening in relationships is always protective. It's protective. The person doesn't want to get hurt. The person doesn't want to get abandoned. The person does not want to be even the reason why the relationship ends, or what have you, or they don't want to hurt in your feelings. So then they just take the responsibility for everything, so there's so many reasons why people do what they do, and it's oftentimes protective. They're so protective, they're instinctual, and so we have to learn new ways to navigate relationships in adulthood, or even in transitioning through adulthood, even if it's this is parental relationships, to do something new. And it's going to take extra effort to do that. Okay. The last way, definitely, and I talked about this a little bit earlier, but I want to reiterate it, that if you're in navigating communication in a toxic relationship, definitely recommend therapy. And this is individual therapy. If it is also a couple, like this is a partnership, then also couples counseling to work through the dynamics of the relationship. So you want to address, the individual therapy is going to address those open wounds, and we talked about this in I think it's our second video in communication with those open wounds. We want to address those. We want to tend to those wounds. We want to mend them, nurse them, nurture them, so that can help you show up in your relationship differently, and then also help to build healthy interaction and to really disarm yourselves in your interaction and communication with your partner. So the best way to do that is through therapy, couples therapy, or if you are tentative about that, not everybody is for therapy. I know that. I wish that we were. Even if just having a person or a neutral, whether it's another couple or whether it's a neutral party that's going to hold you accountable, not an amen corner person, not a person that's just going to co-sign on behavior that is not okay, but a person that's going to hold you accountable and truthfully and give you support through this. Okay, so my first go-to is, it's going to be therapy. Individual, so that means that you have your own therapist, and then you guys have a separate therapist you go to for counseling. Okay, as best practice. So take an honest look at yourself and the other person to know what role you play in it, what role they play in it, to make sure that you got two willing parties that wants to fix this toxic cycle that you guys are on. You want to stand your ground in your boundaries. When another person wants to wiggle, or even you want to wiggle, stand your boundaries with yourself too. Like, no, we said we want to make this work. We got to do the stuff. We got to do it. Shift ourselves from blaming the other person or blaming ourselves into taking accountability and understanding the other person. Taking accountability and then understanding the person, their experiences, and why they're behaving in the way that they are. And of course, therapy to help you build the skills needed to communicate and shift this toxic cycle, and also tend to the wounds. They need to be tended to and nurtured too. I hope this helps. Thank you so much for listening. And of course, please like, share, and comment below if you have any questions, concerns regarding this. And again, if you are in an abusive relationship, which is different than a toxic relationship, toxic relationships may be they may be volatile and with language, or even with behavior like enabling, things of that nature. Have some people pleasing features in it, but abusive relationship where you are fearing for your safety and the safety of people who are maybe with you, then you need safety intervention immediately. Okay, so I want to make sure I make that clear, and I'll give you the information in the description below. Thank you again so much for watching. Subscribe, of course, and see you next time. Peace.